Hey everybody, Omega is here for an Omega Talks About video. It's actually been quite some time since I've ever done one of these. I don't think anybody remembers it, but a really long time ago I did a video called Omega Talks About Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. And I sort of, talked about stuff that I didn't like about the game. And I said I was going to do more, and then I never did. And I recently sort of had an urge to do another one again, so that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a little bit more boring this time because I don't actually have my webcam anymore because my laptop broke. So you're gonna have to probably look at a very boring picture. Yeah, it's not as entertaining, I know, as watching me bob and weave around and talk to you guys, but you still hear me talking. Okay, but anyways, I'm sure you already read by the video title. We're going to be talking about Skyward Sword. I recently finished it a few days ago, and it's still pretty heavy on my mind. So I was wanting to talk about it a little bit. I did not play it at launch. I ended up getting it a little bit afterward. I'm sure a bunch of people got it, for Christmas and still haven't played it yet. So for the curious, this is going to be pretty spoiler-free sort of talking about. I'm not going to give any plot spoilers. Maybe some light ones in the sense that, like talking about areas that you go to and, certain aspects of game mechanics. I will probably talk about those. I don't really consider those spoilers, but some people do apparently. So I will probably be talking about that, but I'm not going to give any plot spoilers. None of that. So. But anyways, talking about it, I just finished it the other day. I think my playthrough time ended up being about 35 hours, something like that. And I mean, I didn't do. Usually, in my first Zelda playthrough, I don't go out of my way to do side quests. So I think that's why I've heard a lot of people their playtimes were a little bit higher than mine, and that's probably why I don't really do too much like side quest hunting and stuff. I do find like hard pieces and stuff like that when they're right in front of me, but I don't go out of my way to look for them. And I ended up actually like missing I think like 6 hearts by the end of the final boss fight. So I missed quite a few, and I didn't even realize it because I was actually finding them pretty regularly when I was playing through the game. I thought I was actually doing pretty good because like every now and then I'd find a heart piece, so I thought I was not doing too bad, but then I got to the end and I was still missing I think like 6 hearts. So I missed a lot more than I thought I did. But anyways, to talk about the game, of course, if you're a Zelda fan, you're gonna like it. That sort of goes without question. I mean, it is Zelda. It's a little bit hard, to screw up Zelda. And ultimately, I do probably like it more than I like Twilight Princess, but for different reasons than why I like Twilight Princess ultimately, because it's not a perfect game at all, and there are plenty of things that I didn't like about it, but I don't really like to start on negative notes. So to actually focus on some positive notes, the first thing that to note is like a lot of people know since before the game came out, they talked about it a lot that like Link and Zelda are a lot closer in this game than they are in other games, and yeah, of course that's true. And I actually really like that because when Zelda inevitably poofs, of course, since, of course that's going to happen, it's a Zelda game. But when Zelda inevitably, goes away, it sort of gives a little bit more of, like, motivation towards Link rescuing her, I think, than some other games because it sort of has this, like, lost love sort of tang to it. And really, it really builds Zelda a little bit more as a character when she's actually, like, there, like in the village from the start. You actually have time to, there's a little bit of development for her. You sort of get to know her a little bit better. She's actually, and like when me and my friends were playing through the beginning segment, because we're all playing it together, and like pretty much like all of us were just, sitting there thinking like, man, Zelda's a cock tease in this one. And she really is because there are like 3 moments in the game where they like tease it's gonna be a romantic moment and then she'll like do something else or whatever, and she almost kills you at one point. It gets to be pretty funny, but But I do like that she's a real character in this one, whereas in other games like Twilight Princess, like Zelda is almost more of a figure than a character. Like she sort of only exists to, I won't say only to further the plot, but she's not directly tied into the game. She comes in and she'll do a couple of things, and that's it. And I think Twilight Princess is actually a very good example of that because she's not really in the game. I mean, she is. You go see her, like she saves Midna and she's there. She shoots the light arrows on the horseback. But that's just about all she does in the game. And other than that, she's just kind of like standing there. And, so it's nice that they sort of took almost a more like Wind Waker esque approach in the fact that she's a real character this time. She's not just there. And I really like that. And that's not the only aspect of Wind Waker that they borrowed from this game, or its sequels, unfortunately. But more on that a little bit later. So I do like that a lot. As far as the story goes, it's a really good story. Again, I'm not gonna go into spoilers, so I'm really not gonna detail it too much. But it's a little bumpy, admittedly. But when it gets good, it gets really really good. And I do like that. It does start off a little slow, which it seems to me seems to be a trend in Zelda games lately. Ever since like I guess like Wind Waker. I guess it's a good place to start. I won't say every game since Wind Waker, but that was when I first noticed it. And pretty much since then, like all the Zelda games have a really long startup before they actually get going. Like Twilight Princess had a long start before it actually gets going. This one does too. But it's not completely pointless because you sort of build those characters up more so than I would say in Twilight Princess, because the characters actually matter in this one, whereas the characters that they build in the prologue of Twilight Princess actually don't matter in the overall game. So it is a little slow at the beginning, but if you stick with it, it does get epic, and when it gets epic, it gets really epic. Now there are some mediocre points in between in the gameplay. I'm gonna talk about more that a little bit later. But if you can stick through it, like when the game gets going, it really really gets going. So I do like that a lot. Some of the other new characters that I like. The new villain in this game, I believe I pronounce his name Girahim. Is how I pronounce it. It might be like Girahim, Girahim. I don't know. I say Girahim is how I presumed it was pronounced. But he is the new lead villain, and I like him a lot. As a matter of fact, I think he's my favorite not Ganondorf character in the game. And for those who may not be aware, this was actually officially announced before the game came out, so I don't consider it a spoiler to say this. Ganondorf is not actually in this game, so for everybody, awaiting Ganondorf doesn't come. But there is a Ganondorf-esque entity, and that's actually pretty cool. But for the most part, the only villain that you're going to get in the game is Girahim. And like I said, I like him a lot because he just like does not give a shit, like whatsoever. Like other villains are, they kind of hold back and scheme or whatever. Girahim does not care. He gets right in your face and he's like, "Hey, here I am. Kill me if you can," And he's really sadistic, to say the least. Also really fruity, but that's beside the point. He's quite flamboyant, but if you can look past that. He is a really cool villain. He's really sadistic. He's really like torturous. His dialogue is very well written, and I liked him a lot actually. Pretty much like any moment that he came on the screen, because he does recur. He's actually a recurring boss fight, but there are scenes where you don't fight him that he's in. So, and pretty much like the moment that he came on screen, I just got really really excited because that meant like something really epic was about to happen because Girahim's here now. So like shit's about to go down. Girahim's here. And I think you'll end up feeling that too. So I did really like him as a character, and as a villain, I thought he was really cool, especially at towards the very end, like the next to last boss fight. There's not I don't want to call it a plot twist because it's not taken dramatically, but there is sort of like this like subtle comparison, contrasty thing that they do between him and another character, and it's not really focused on, and I think that's why I liked it because it just sort of like occurred to me, and it was I thought it was cool. I thought it was worth mentioning. But I think my absolute favorite character in this game, I think without a doubt, has got to be Groose. And I've heard because another friend of mine was actually playing this game alongside me, and he ended up really not liking Groose. And Groose, for the people that don't know, is sort of like, a lot of people compare him to Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. And honestly, that's probably hitting the nail right on the head because, like, initially that's his character. He's like the big, like the muscle head that's not, not very smart, and he's, kind of like cheating to get his way and whatever. I really, really like his character because, like, every instance that he's on the screen, I felt some form of emotion and to associate with him because he's not straight bad for the entire game. He's bad mostly at the very beginning, during the very like the prologue or whatever, and he has this little crush on Zelda, and he kind of has this like imaginary love triangle going on in his head when like really there's not one there at all, and but I mean, after you get out of the beginning of the game, every single moment that he came on screen, like I felt that scene. I felt, either laughing because he is a very dorky character, and there are a lot of scenes that are meant to make you laugh, and just at other times he is so damn sweet. Like it almost like it hurts me inside to say that because he is a douchebag at the beginning of the game. But then for the rest of the game, he's like the sweetest character ever, and like it makes me happy, like to watch some of the things that he does. And there's not really even dialogue or whatever. There'll just be moments where like he just goes around and he like hugs every character on the screen, and he's like happy, and it makes me happy to watch him be happy. And he's like a giant, sweet. Don't want to say teddy bear, that would be lame, but he's a very sweet character. He's a very good character, and he's to me like the most part of where I got what I like to refer to as like Zelda magic from, and I don't mean that like magic like a gameplay mechanic. I mean that in the way of Zelda storytelling, in the sense that because Link is a silent protagonist, they kind of have to do other ways of making you feel emotion between the characters in scenes, and they have different ways of doing it, in every one. And like, really, to go back to Twilight Princess, like Midna is sort of the drive for a lot of that in Twilight Princess. And for this one, I got it a lot more out of Groose than I got anything else because like I said, every time he's on the screen, like I felt something. I felt what I was supposed to be feeling. Sometimes it's like pity and sympathy. Sometimes it's anger because he's being a douchebag, and sometimes it's happiness because he's being so goddamn sweet. It's irresistible. So every time he's on the screen, like I felt the emotion I was supposed to feel, and that was really cool. I think he is probably my favorite character of the game. To cite one of the better moments of the game, and I hear this area praised a lot. I think actually probably my favorite area of the game is the fifth dungeon. For those of you who remember, it's like the pirate ship dungeon or whatever. But I actually like the whole segment before that. It's called sort of like the Sand Sea basically. Then it's like a desert, and you have these like stones that sort of reverse time, so to speak, as long as you're standing within the radius of the stone. And it used to be like a big ocean. So like you get one of those stones on the boat, and you're driving the boat, so it's moving the stone. So it's like the water is essentially going wherever you're going, but then in front of that water is like vast desert. But when you're going over it, it's water, and there's like reefs and coral and stuff everywhere, and like fish in the water and stuff. It's really beautiful, honestly. Like I honestly enjoyed the whole segment. That's not even to mention that the dungeon is probably the best dungeon in the game. It's really challenging. It's really, but not too challenging. It's the perfect balance of challenging and fun. And you get a cool item in it, and you get like the boss fight is really, really epic. It's a really cool segment. I've heard it praised a lot. It was probably my favorite moment of the game. And well, except maybe besides the ending, because I really like the final sequence, because it's really it's really epic. So, and I do like that a lot. There was something I'm trying to think. There was one other thing, positive thing that I really wanted to talk about it. To talk about some of the more, and I mean this in a good way, some of the things that are borrowed from Wind Waker, like the flying aspect, is sort of Wind Waker esque to me, because it sort of comes across as like this big like open world that you can go around in, not in the sense that Wind Waker did, because you can't really go anywhere, but there are a whole. Oh, excuse me, I just ate lunch. Sorry. There are a whole lot of like floating islands in the sky or whatever that you can visit, and there's different stuff on those islands. And as you go through the game, you unlock all these chests everywhere, and they have a lot of really good stuff for you to get. And so there is that sense of exploration that's still there, and it reminded me personally of Wind Waker. So and I mean that in a good way. It has some of the positive aspects of Wind Waker without necessarily the repetitiveness and sometimes dragging outness, tediousness that Wind Waker had, like the Triforce Hunt. But this game does have its own version of the Triforce Hunt, which is equally as tedious to me. But I plan on talking about that in the bad ending. That's actually not the good thing. That the other good thing that I wanted to say. I'm trying to think about what it is. Hmm. Um, what else can I talk about? Some of the new races that they made. There's one that I really like, the Kikwis, which are these sort of like forest dwelling, like little monster things. They are so adorable. I want one. Like these are like the Zelda equivalent of the Lumas from Mario Galaxy. It's like they're just so adorable, and they make all these squeaking noises, and I just I want to cuddle one and take it home and keep it as a pet, as twisted and sadistic as that is. So anyways, it's not coming to me, so it'll probably come to me in the middle of recording this. I reckon I'll come back to whatever it is I'm trying to think about. So, moving on to some of the things that I didn't so much like about this game. Um, to start off with, going back to the characters, your partner character in this one, Fee, as I call her, is without a doubt the shittiest Zelda character, partner character, maybe even Zelda character, period, that I've ever seen, that I've ever come across. Like I was almost stunned at how flat and poorly written a character she is to be coming out of a game this modern. And it doesn't help that she's following behind the steps of Midna, who is like an integral part of experiencing Twilight Princess, because she is just like a cult of personality, really. And Midna honestly made a good bit of the game of Twilight Princess. So it almost really disappointed me to see a character this flat, because she's really boring. And I mean, like, I get what they were going for, I guess, because there's like essentially her gimmick or whatever is that she's the spirit of the sword on your back. And like her gimmick basically is that she's very like robotic and like mechanical, and she talks in statistics a lot and percentages, and like almost sort of like computery in the sense that she doesn't feel emotions or whatever. And I figured, like, okay, yeah, she's like that now at the beginning of the game, yeah, but eventually, they'll characterize her a little bit. I mean, like they have to, but they don't. Like, she stays that boring robotic personality literally the whole game, and she never ever gets better, with the exception of like the very like her like last 5 minutes of screen time. She gets a tiny bit of characterization, but by then it was just too little too late for me, and I did not care about her because she's so boring. She doesn't do anything. Not she doesn't provide anything. Like, literally, okay, there are two things in the whole game that she does. She's responsible for a game mechanic called dowsing, which I'll have plenty to talk about later. And basically, to give a general explanation, it points you in the vague direction of your objective, basically. At certain points of the game, you have to find something, and you can douse for it, and you can point your sword in a direction. and it sort of gives you like the vague general direction that you have to go. So, and she is the source of that power, so she does that, and then she accidentally seduces a robot into carrying things for you. And besides those two things, literally the entire game could have happened without her, and nothing would have been different. Not a damn thing. And that's really, really sad to me, because she's so boring, and she interrupts you for everything, like all the obvious stuff. Like whenever your health gets low, she always pops out to tell you that your health is low in the middle of a fight. Or like I can remember the instance of I was in the volcano region of area of the map, right? And I came towards this room, and she popped out and said, something to the likes of, "Hey, the temperature in this room is really, really hot. It's so hot that if you walk in, your clothes are going to instantly set on fire. But if you run, you'll keep your temperature innate enough or whatever that they won't catch on fire." Basically, the extent was, it's really hot in here. If you go in, you're going to take damage. But if you run, you'll be okay. And I was doing one of those, moments of the game where I was looking for something. And I mean, this was like the one area that I hadn't been over to yet. So, I started running through, and I still caught on fire, and I still started losing health, which she told me that if I was running, it wouldn't happen. So, not only does she not help you, she just directly lied to me about something. And I mean, it's so stupid. But I mean, to finish the story, I was running through the room, and then I got to the end of the room or whatever, and then she popped up again and said, "Hey, you're not going to be able to go into this room, period." Basically, like, it's too hot, you can't go in, turn around. Yeah, so I turned around and went back. I ended up getting out of the room with like half a heart left. Like, I just barely survived. And the stupid part was, that really was where I needed to go next. I just went in the wrong direction. Whereas I went to the left, instead if I went to the right, there's this sort of like slide thing that I had to go down that would have got me to the thing that I was looking for. But I didn't know that was over there, because the game doesn't point you over there, you just sort of have to find it. So now, not only did I almost get myself killed by my partner, I've also deluded myself into thinking that wasn't the right way to go, when it really was. So I've already marked that off of my to investigate list. So, I was walking around, the rest of the area a lot, trying to find out where to go next. And it took me for like another 20 minutes before I happened to find it. So I really, really hated her. She's so boring. And I kind of get what they were going for, because there are moments of the game which they try to make beautiful, in the sense that where she does this like dancing sort of thing, like ballet style dancing, basically. And it's a little pretty, yes, it would be pretty if there weren't only like 2 sequences in the game that they play over and over and over again. And like, once you've seen it once, like, you've seen it until halfway through the game, and then they do another one, and then you watch that one for the rest of the game. And they're just kind of awkward, and not really very pretty to watch. But I guess I got what they were going for. I just wish that they would have done it better, because if they had, at least there would be that little bit that I could say that I liked about her. But I can't. I can only say that I literally hated everything about this character, and I can't believe that a character so flat, so static, so boring came out in any sort of modern game, much less a Zelda game, a game with a side cast is vitally important, because you have a silent main character, so the rest of the cast is all you have to go off of. And like, it stuns me, really, that she was so bad. So I really don't like Fee. But enough about that. To go into what I've just had it in my head. What else I was going to talk about? To go into some more of the gameplay aspects. Between dungeons and between important segments can often get really, really tedious, because there's a lot of backtracking in this game. through areas. There's only 3 areas in the game, like 3, I guess, major areas, and then they're sort of like split up, a couple of different ways. So there aren't only 3 areas, but there are 3 like regions that that the areas are split up in. And I wasn't really a fan of that because even though it's not exactly the same, I still really had the sense that I'd been there before. Whereas, in the first half of the game, you go to this region and you're like climbing, to the top of this volcano or whatever to get to the temple that's on the side of the volcano. And then the later half of the game, you actually go inside of the volcano, and that's a whole, separate, area of the game. But you still feel like I am at the volcano, and you still have, that same, whatever emotions and feelings you've been associating with the area so far, you don't really go away. And that's kind of not very effective, because if you don't like an area, you're still not going to like the area. It only sort of, if you didn't like it, it's only going to get worse. And that's really, I don't think was a very good way to do things. And then again, there's a lot of backtracking. Dousing is, as talked about, was really, really not fun. And I compare it a lot to finding the keys to fight the bosses in Metroid Prime 2 in the Dark World, because it doesn't kill your momentum. It's like you want to get through it, but at the same time, it's a little bit tedious and not immediately apparent as to where you have to go and what you have to do, and you have to do a lot. So it does kind of get in the way a bit, and really like a lot of the times I just found myself just ready to get to the next dungeon because the dungeons are good. Like when you get to the dungeon, you are set. But in between, there were plenty of segments that I didn't like. And I think out of all the gameplay segments that I really, really didn't like, actually made me want to punch the developers in the face, was that apparently somebody on the development team really had a grudge that people didn't like Phantom Hourglass, because they essentially remade Phantom Hourglass in this game. Yeah, I guess thinking that people would like it better now. And I don't really get why. And by that I mean that since not everybody played Phantom Hourglass, so for those of you that didn't play Phantom Hourglass, there's this reoccurring dungeon, right, that you go back to multiple times in the game. And while you're there are these like safe spots, so to speak, that while you're standing in, you're just fine. And when you're not standing in one of them, you have a time limit that's constantly going down. And then when the time limit runs out, if you're standing outside one of those safe spots, your hearts are constantly going down. And patrolling this dungeon are a bunch of enemies that kill you in one hit if they find you. I mean, it's not like they see you, there's a cutscene and you instantly die. But if they hit you, you instantly die. And they brought that back in Skyward Sword. There are moments in the game, I think you're going to have to do it 4 times in the game, where it's not like that where there's a safe spot. It's that you're going to be in a big open area, and you have to find these 15 like light tears from Twilight Princess, basically. They'll be on the ground, and as soon as you get there, as soon as you walk out of your starting area, enemies are going to come to life, and they kill you in one hit if they hit you. And then collecting one of the light tears turns them off for a couple of seconds. Not a couple of seconds, it's actually like a minute and a half. So you have to, find more before it runs out. You have to find all 15 and then get back to where you started without dying. And it's really not fun. Like, I don't really get why they put it in the game. It doesn't really make sense to me, because, like, this was something that I thought was heavily criticized in Phantom Hourglass. Like, I thought they were quite reprimanded for this. I know that at least I'm not alone in not liking it. So it really didn't make any sense to me at all why they'd bring it back. I really didn't like it. So another thing well, it's not necessarily bad, but whoever came up with the beetle item, which is like it's sort of essentially like a remote control thing, like Robot Beetle, and you use it and then it flies around and you can control it and you can pick up items and you can sort of like explore the place and hit switches that you can't get to and stuff like that. And whoever came up with that item apparently thought it was a really good idea because you have to use it a lot. And I don't mean that entirely as a complaint because I mean I like that items don't ever really give their uses out, but way more so than any other item in the game. Like in almost every dungeon, actually, as far as I recall, you have to use that item. So there were times when I wasn't even thinking about it, that I really needed, I really needed to use the beetle, and I wasn't thinking about it because it's the first item that you get, and I'm at the 7th dungeon. So it's like, I'm not really thinking. I'm thinking about the item that I just got in this dungeon, not the one that I've had the whole game. And I mean, it got in the way a little bit. Oh, the good thing that I want to talk about, I remember now, was the improved difficulty. Is what I wanted to talk about. It is this is actually a harder Zelda game, and I like it that way, honestly. You start with 6 hearts instead of 3, but you're gonna need every single one of them because you're gonna get hit a lot. and I do like the improved difficulty of the game. The dungeons are not harder in an intelligent sense, but they like to hide things from you. And oftentimes when I found myself getting stuck, it's because the game hid something from me and expected me to find it, and I did not. And that was more often why I got stuck more than anything else. I only ever had to consult GameFAQs one time the entire game, and I'm glad I did because I'd have never found what they hid from me. The one time I had to consult GameFAQs was actually in the pirate ship dungeon, the thing with the lifeboat. I'd have never found that. I had the entirely wrong idea of how to go about that puzzle, so I'd have never figured that out. So I have no shame in saying that I GameFAQs that area of the game. But oftentimes if you get stuck, it's because you need to look behind something or inside of something, or something is they hid something from you and they want you to find it, and there's really no other hint than that. Speaking of which, going back to Fee is not a very good hint system either, because only at one point in the game did she ever actually help me figure something out that I was stuck on. Like, she's not very good at giving hints, and usually when you call her and ask her for a hint, what she's going to tell you is look around or use your items. Which is like, yeah, I know that already. I've already tried that. No, like, what? I need a new bigger hint than that. Or if you ask her for a hint for a boss, she's also going to tell you the immediately obvious stuff and then not the stuff that you need to know. She'll say, like, oh, hey, I don't have enough information about this boss yet. Like, ask me later. And by that she means ask me when you've already figured it out, because then I will know. But by then you don't need to know anymore because you already figured it out. And it's really stupid. So it's just, I hate Fee. I really, really don't like Fee. Really, really don't like Fee. So, but I did like the improved difficulty of the game. The final boss is actually fairly challenging. Yeah, he has an attack that takes away 3 hearts. And I had like 12 hearts. Oh, no, not 12. I had more than 12. I think I had like 14 or 15 hearts maximum. He has like the least damage that the final boss ever does is 1 whole heart, and like he has an attack that takes away 3. So it's a little it gets to you. But getting back to aspects of the game that I don't like, motion controls are still motion controls, and I'm sure I think everybody expected this to come up eventually, but with the Wii Motion Plus, it does help a lot with how accurately the game reads your controls. It does not entirely fix the problem, though, and you will have some moments where you meant to do one thing and the game mistook it for something else. I am tiring my voice out now from talking about this so much. I need something to drink. I'm going to try to finish this up fairly soon. So it doesn't entirely fix, all the motion control problems. I can remember a bunch of times where the game didn't really register my swings. And I mean, swinging the sword is actually really, really cool when you can do it right. But by third I want to say the third dungeon, the third area, the third dungeon before that. The enemies have move on to like electric swords or whatever, and if they block you, it electrocutes you, and you take damage. So essentially, if you miss, you're gonna take damage. So you can't miss, but at the same time though, the game doesn't always read your moves perfectly. So you could very easily take damage and die because the game didn't read something that you did correctly. And it's not a major problem because if you've been playing the Wii for a long time, you've probably figured out the tricks by now. And if not, then you probably will after a little while. It's you kind of, for me at least anyway, I just kind of have a style that I tweak per Wii game to make motion controls work for me. So, and you'll learn those as you go along, but it doesn't entirely fix the problem. So don't expect it to be necessarily fluid all the time. So. So that's something that's something else I was too crazy about. Also, the side quest system could use some work in the sense that like there's not like time does not pass like it does in other Zelda games where it goes from like day to night to day or whatever. If you want to make it nighttime, you have to go back to Skyloft, which is like the main hub or whatever, and then sleep in your bed until nighttime, and then get up. And there are a lot of side quests that you can't do. Until you can only do at night. And that's really the only reason why a nighttime element exists. And I don't really get, I don't get why they did it that way, because it's really tedious to have to run back, back to the room, make it nighttime, go to wherever you needed to go, do the thing, and then go back and make it daytime, and then go somewhere else to possibly finish the quest, all to do one thing. And that really wasn't, that wasn't very fun to me. So, but anyways, I think I've pretty well exhausted, stuff that I have to say about it. I've been going on for 40 minutes, which is plenty of good time for me. So I think I'm gonna stop around here. If I thought hard enough, I'm sure there's other stuff that I'm forgetting about that I probably feel equally as strongly about. But to end on a positive note. It is a good game, and you will enjoy it, but it does get a little bit tedious at moments, and it's not a perfect game, so you don't expect it to be, and really you shouldn't have been expecting it to be from the start, because I'm one of those people that I don't really believe in in the idea of a perfect game. Like I still have complaints about my favorite video game ever made, and there are still problems with it. There are common criticisms for it, and I agree with those common criticisms. So I don't think that you should be expecting, this game to be good. So a game to be perfect. It is a good game. So, but anyways, those of you in the audience, if you played this game before, let me know what you think about it. How you feel about certain aspects. If you agree or disagree, and why not? Because that stuff really interests me. I'd appreciate it if you would keep spoilers out of the comments so that somebody who hasn't finished the game yet doesn't get ruined. I would appreciate it if you do that. So, but by all means, talk to me. Make a video response, make a comment. Let me know how you feel about the game, and I will probably reply to you because I like discussing games. I like talking about games. So this is an easy way to get a response from me. Talk back to me, tell me how you felt about it, and hopefully, I will try to get another one of these videos out fairly quickly, whenever a game comes out that I'm really excited about. So, I hope for there to not be a couple of years before the next video. So, but anyways, that's all I have to say about that. So, thank you guys for listening, and let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys for some videos pretty soon. We got some Fire Emblem videos coming up, yay! So I'll see you guys then. Bye, guys.